Descriptive programming, what it is? What is descriptive programming? When to use descriptive? Advantage of descriptive, disadvantage of descriptive. This first we'll see this. So what is descriptive programming? Descriptive programming means managing the object without repository is called descriptive programming. As you all know, QTP needs object repository to manage the object under application. If I like to manage an object without a repository, then it is called descriptive programming. So, descriptive programming, managing the object without repository is called descriptive programming. In QTP, we all know QTP requires object repository to identify the object in the application under test. QTP uses logical name from the script. It uses the logical name to identify the object in the repository. From repository, he uses description properties. Using description properties, he identified the object under application under test. This is what we have seen in the object repository session. Now there is a situation where I am not able to add the object into the repository. In such situations, how do I manage with QTP? In another sense, descriptive programming was the preventive method. This was used way back. Older versions of QTP used before the repository concept came into picture. At that time, it was only with descriptive programming it can identify the object. So, how QTP recognizes without the repository? So, what descriptive programming says is, in object, if it is identified with name value using name value pair, right? Object is identified using name value pair. Pass this name value pair in script itself. Then QTP will able to identify the object. This was the older type. The way the script are generated in the older versions of QTP is only through this. In fact, Windrunner was mostly using descriptive programming during that time. At that time, it was not famous because that is the only method available. Now, since object repository came into picture, descriptive programming has taken the sideline, but in interviews, it is most important concept. So if I have to identify object, this is the syntax, this is the object. Within object, I give now property name colon equal to value. Colon equals is very important. Colon equals value. So value 1. This has to be in quotes. The entire thing has to be in quotes, followed by, you can say, property 1, comma separated, property 1, colon equals value 2. you can add any number of combination here until you know the object is going to get identified uniquely. It is separated by a comma. Name value pair is one item, it has to be in quotes. So name value pair 1, name value pair 2 separated by a comma, followed by any number of name value pair until you know the combination of name value pair identifies the object uniquely. Until then, you continue to pass the name value pair. This is the way QTP identifies the object uniquely. So this is applying this method in the scripting is called descriptive programming. Let us convert our existing script that we have already recorded working with repository. Let us try to convert into descriptive programming to understand better on that. What is the advantage of descriptive? Since descriptive programming doesn't require to map logical name in the repository and identifying using descriptive properties to identify it in the application under test, he directly goes from script into the application under test, so he is faster in running. That is only the main advantage. And again, this method was the old method, and before repository era, this was predominantly used by most of the tools in the market. What is the disadvantage of descriptive? It is highly maintainable, because each line I am using a name value pair. That name value pair, if any one value changes in the application, then I need to maintain, or everywhere I need to change the value of the pair. Otherwise it will fail. Either it can be a property name or it can be a value. Anything changes, I need to change in all the scripts, in all the locations, in all the lines of the script. I need to change. That is one of the major disadvantage of descriptive programming. There are cases where you are forced to use descriptive. In such situations, you don't have any other options. We will see those under description objects and the recovery that we are going to see, that is test run error recovery. Under these two places, I am forced to use descriptive programming. So let us now see how we apply this descriptive programming concept into our script, actual script. I'll take now reusable action script. I'll go to QTP. In QTP, I open up the reusable action script, and that reusable action script, I will convert it into a descriptive programming. Right? I open now. Open the reusable action. So I go back to the folder, reusable folder. Under this reusable action, I have a flight. I open this. I would like to convert this script into a descriptive programming. Why I am choosing this script? The reason is I am going to use this script in my recovery scenario, test run error. For that reason, I am changing this script now. Here you can see now the dialog login. This login is a logical name. Agent name is a logical name. Password is the logical name. I need to now completely come out of the repository. That means I need to remove the repository from here. By removing the repository from resources, I like to manage the object without this repository. If I have to manage the object without repository, I am using the concept called descriptive programming. This is the idea behind. Let me first have everything. Let me first save the script as descriptive programming. It is no longer a reusable action for us. So I put it under scripts, descriptive programming. I don't want logout, so I remove all, I delete those actions. I don't need create order, I delete those actions. So that the focus is intact. Our focus is converting our login flight, right? And that login flight is descriptive programming. I am going to convert it. First, in descriptive programming, this agent name I like to replace. So this agent name I am getting into object properties. This agent name is identified using native class and attached text. So you are now clear, native class and attached text are sufficient properties to identify the object under application under test uniquely. Now I close this. Let me open the flight reservation beginning login page so that we understand much better. In this now flight login page, now you're seeing that agent name is the object. How many objects is having the attached text agent name? Do you now agree there is only one object, that is edit box, having attached text agent name? Right. So this agent name attached text is itself is sufficient. If I take native class alone as a property to be identified, number of objects available with native class edit, I can see two objects clearly. So native class is not sufficient enough to identify the object uniquely. Whereas attached text is sufficient enough to identify the object uniquely because attached text agent name is unique within this application under test login screen. Under this parent only I am looking at the agent name. So the parent of the object is also important. So now I can use now attached text is my name, property name, value is agent name. These two I am going to use it in my WinEdit attached text. So you have to be careful when I say attached text, it has to be with space means with space. If it is no space, then it has to be no space. Then colon equals. So colon equals is very important and agent name is the same title. So WinEdit is now replaced with name value pair. Here I am using single name value pair because attached text is sufficient to identify the object uniquely. Now I want to do it for password. For password, I want to use different name. I don't want the same attached text. I want to use different. So let me go to spy. Understand what are all the other properties password has. Even though it is also a WinEdit, I try to see the other properties. Let me go with native class edit is fine. Now text is not there. You have attached text. Text is what you type. Attached text is password that is already there. Now I like to use say window ID. Window ID 2000 I want to use now. I can use. Is window ID 2000 is it unique? That is very important for you to understand. If it is not unique, I need to manage with other property. Let me use Windows ID as a standalone. So window space ID, all letters are small letters. So I need to use and value is 2000. I like to use that. I go here. So instead of password, just to differentiate between what we have seen it in the repository and what we like to use. So window space ID colon equals value is 2000 now. So now we replaced password with window ID colon equals 2000. As long as window ID is sufficient enough to identify the object uniquely, one name value pair is sufficient. Same way, I need to go with button. Let me spy on the button, understand what is the property that is unique in the button. So win button OK. I can use now either regular expression window title, text property OK, window ID 1. I can use any of this now to identify the object. So let me use now text property itself. Text property is OK. This is what I want to use. I say close. So text colon equals OK. So OK has to be capital because that is the way the value is recognized. Since it is an identification, it is case sensitive. It has to be identical to the way the property is recognized. Now I made that. I don't want this now because this is not our aim. So now I come to dialog. Before I come to dialog, see the keyword view now. In keyword view under login object, you can see now all are question mark because question mark indicates the object is not in the repository. In our case, this object is not in the repository. We have used descriptive programming, so this logical name is not going to be available in the repository, but he doesn't fail because since you have used name value pair, he tries to recognize the object using this name value pair inside the application without going into the repository description properties. So now I come back. I like to change this login also. So if I try to change the login, then it is a dialog. What is that unique in the dialog? Then let me open the dialog. So our dialog is there. Class name dialog is fine. You have each child window, that is okay. Now native class #32770 is what the dialog native class is. Regular expression window title is login. So this regular expression window title login is unique for this object. So I can go with reg exp wnd title, or I can go with text as well. Either of these two I can use. Window ID can I use? You have window ID 0. Provided window ID is unique, you can use it. Now let me use two properties now, text property and window ID, so that you know how to configure that as well. So text property text colon equals, then after quotes comma, this is, you should not forget, you should not put the comma inside the quotes. So for each name value pair it has to be in quotes, then window ID, then only he knows you are using combination of properties. Colon equal to value is 0. With this now, these two are the combination. With these two combinations, I am trying to identify the dialog. I replace here. In wherever dialog is used now, I need to replace it. Otherwise, it will fail. So this is one of the disadvantage I have in descriptive programming. In all locations, manually I need to change. Right? So this is entirely now converted into descriptive programming. You can now see in the statement, everything is shown as a statement. So you can see now dialog is a statement, dialog text login is a statement. You can see that it is now not recognized with any more object. It is all statements now. This statement has everything, right? Set parameter. The entire value is now stored as a statement. So this is the way he identifies the object. So for him, it is nothing but a statement. It is no longer an object. So for our better understanding, I completely remove this repository. I went to resources. I opened the repository. I delete this entire repository so that there is no ambiguity now that I recognize the object through repository. Now remove the repository, absolutely no repository now. If I run the script, what will happen? Line number 1, it is a util object, it is a QTP object, so it doesn't require a identification of object in the application under test. So line number 1 is not going to give a problem. Line number 2, it's an invoke object, it is going to invoke the flight reservation login, so that should not be a problem. Line number 3 is now replaced now with a descriptive programming. I am identifying the object now using descriptive programming, using name value pair. Then line number 4, line number 6, all we use is now descriptive programming. I close this login as well so that there is no multiple instance open to have a conflict. In parameter, again I don't want to use parameter, so I now make it as, say, Mercury. I can now no parameter as well. I made it. Script is now ready with a descriptive programming. I now run the script. See whether he is able to manage the object or not. I say run. You need to practice. When you are practicing, maybe with create order, convert everything into create order. First level, you try to do it with objects that is in the repository. Second level, you can straight away try to identify the object and try to use descriptive programming in the object without a recording. This will give more clarity on identification properties. Now you have noticed now QTP is able to execute and he opened the flight reservation window even though I don't have a repository. This is much faster than your normal mode of operation, that is going through logical name, repository, description properties, identifying the object in the application under test. Now he directly accessed the object from script through application under test. There is no pointing between script and the logical name. Without repository, managing objects is what descriptive programming is all about. It is a method available for you to use in situations where you are not able to add the object into the repository. Care has to be taken. Assume that if you have 100 lines of script, if one of this value changes, 0 is changed to something else, login is changed to something else, then in each and every line you have to change the property. So what people will do in such situation is, this is where the matrix framework comes into picture. What generally do is, they assign the value to a variable, right? Say for example, I go like this, my property, I'll say dialog, and so I don't use dialog, I say variable dialog equals text. I am now framing the text here, colon equals login. I am framing the text into a variable. Then we edit. I am framing the text, colon attached text, colon equal to value, say agent name, agent space name colon. This is how the agent name is used. In another set, I will say v edit password, I put it, assign it to a variable. only the 2000 I am assigning. Say 2000. Various ways to manage. Now, how do I manage this? So in this case, I can now, instead of dialog, I directly put V dialog. Instead of attach text, I directly put Win edit. Because now attach text colon equal to agent name is entire text that we framed. So wherever you have this, you make it as V dialog. Make sure the spellings are right, otherwise he will give an error. Now wherever window ID, now in this case what I did, I applied 2000 for win edit password. So how do I use this value? Now in this case I go with concatenation. I end the quote here, concatenation operator, then I paste my variable. This is the way I manage now the concatenation operator. So quote, bracket, quote ends, ampersand, because that is a concatenation operator, v underscore edit password, that is the variable. Now I try to run the script. See what happens. So he closes the application. He is now opened the dialog, assigned the variable with value. He is now editing the agent name, editing the password, clicking on OK button. He is able to do this. This is the way they manage in the olden days, because these variables, any change, I can change it to this variable here itself. Right? This is why the scripting has taken much longer time to manage. This is the same concept now matrix framework uses. Entire thing I put it into the Excel sheet. From Excel sheet I drive all the values and pass it on to my script. This is how the matrix framework evolved. Right? We'll see all those as we get into detailed cases. So in this case right now, this is what descriptive programming is all about.